Yeah, so I'm going to limit myself to 4 videos, and whatever I end up actually remembering to say is just what's going to get said. But I've been playing Doom 3. I beat Veteran on the source port and then Vanilla, and then I've actually been playing Nightmare on Vanilla, and I'm already probably like halfway through the game. I don't know. I'm past where you fight the mancubuses and all that shit. I started to get kind of tired of it though. Like I think I'm at Alpha Labs or I don't whatever the fuck. I never remember the names, but um, I started playing Fear again, and I popped it up on extreme difficulty. And right now, I'm not exactly playing it per se. I'm sort of just kind of fucking around because I want to do a proper like extreme difficulty sort of self challenge kind of thing, like I've done in the past, but also allow myself to get immersed and like really into the story. One of the things I will say is that I didn't really do that with Doom 3. For the most part, most of my playthroughs in current memory have just been, just get the game, just play it or whatever. To some degree, I was listening to the PDAs, but I didn't do it a whole lot. Um, Most of the locker codes or door codes, whatever, I still just look at the wiki or whatever. But I'm still not, like, I haven't done a proper playthrough where I just let myself actually listen to all the audio logs, this and that. And a lot of people, they hated the flashlight stuff in the game. I loved it. The Doom 3 shotgun is one of my favorite shotguns of all time. And a lot of people hated you know, the audio log stuff. Personally, it's one of my favorite parts of the game. It's, most of the time I'm just wanting to like kind of like run around, shoot monsters or whatever. And I usually listen to music when I'm doing shit like that. That's how I play most games, but I still haven't done a real sort of playthrough like that yet. But for the time being with Fear, I'm just kind of fucking around. I'm using med kits and armor, and I'm trying to limit myself to just the auto and quick save. But this one is kind of more loose, just fucking around kind of thing. And then at some point, I'll do an extreme run like I've done before. And something else I think I forgot to mention in previous videos was not only do I do no health kit usage and no armor pickups, I don't pick up any health boosters either. Because health boosters, not only do they increase your total health, but they also fully restore it. So part of the meta of Fear is, if you ever see, a health pickup and you're low on health, just do that. Don't waste the med kits. But you also want to avoid those if you're trying to do what I'm doing, because then they're sort of like the armor version of health where they apply automatically. Now reflex boosters, it's like med kits. I don't care about those because med kits you have to press a key to use them, and then the reflex booster. Well, I don't use the slow mo. I might fuck with it here and there on this run because I'm just sort of fucking around. But there'll probably be a point where I do a proper kind of immersed playthrough of it where I'm just, only, having the game and the game audio and really kind of fully exploring the story, the phone calls and this and that stuff. And, I know Civi would say that it's not world building or whatever. Well, whatever, fuck them then. And I was watching some Blood 2 stuff. Okay, part of what got me on Fear again was that I was thinking about the Quake 2, Doom 3 type of stuff, id Software, making me think about other games of the era, Blood 2 being one of those. And the interesting thing with Blood 2 is even though it runs on lithtech, I always misremember it as being on Quake 2 because the feature set of the early lithtech and then the Quake 2 engine are pretty close to identical to the point to where, they look almost interchangeable. Most engines, they have a particular feel to them. So, like for an example, Quake 3's engine, games that run on it, you can just notice, particularly if they actually use the curved surfaces stuff. And, it's like Doom 3's engine, there's just a look to it. And also, as well, because it uses the curves, if you start seeing a bunch of pipes and other curved surfaces that have this weird squared off sort of quadratic appearance, yeah, it's pretty much a confirmation of it running on the Doom 3 engine. And because I've been fucking with Net Radiant, I started trying to use the best Doom 3 textures that I could to make a kind of realistic looking sort of urban whatever area. So like brick buildings and like bullshit like that. And I made this little building with some windows and like a front door. And then I put a water tower on it, and I have a ladder up the water tower that I made totally out of the bezier patches. And so I manipulated it to make it look kind of all deteriorated and bent and all that. But whenever I did that and I put shadows on it, like I put lights on it and I ran it in game and seen it with the shadows and all that, the first fucking thing I thought is, this looks like Fear. And, Fear has a few differences from the Doom 3 engine. However, part of the reason you don't really see a whole lot of sort of realistic looking environments per se in unified lighting and shadowing engines, at least of that era, is because of that. It's like specular lit normal maps with shadow volumes just has this sort of look to it. And it's like it's either going to look like Doom 3 or Fear. And, if you make urban type of looking stuff, like non sci-fi stuff with Doom 3's engine, it just ends up looking like Fear, which is the part of what further drove me to want to start replaying it, because I think Fear has some of the best level design of all time. But to complete the point on the Civi comment, I mentioned that on a Blood 2 video because I was watching some stuff about it before I kind of fully got on to Fear. And I made a comment to somebody about that, is I've pretty much gotten sick of cv11 because motherfuckers treat him like, he gives his blessing of whatever old school first person shooters count as good. And like they do that instead of just seeing it as, just some guy made a funny video to watch or something. And like all these motherfuckers that act like Blood 2 sucks, I'm not seeing the valid criticisms. The majority of it boils down to either I just don't particularly like it, and I mean that's truly just a fucking opinion thing. And then a lot of the other complaints are stuff that's only relevant nowadays. And one of the biggest things that fucks up a lot of these old games is not limiting the frame rate. So for an example, one of the issues that you can see even in Civi's review of Blood 2 is there's a cutscene after you fight the giant snake thing or whatever the fuck it is, which Civi is like getting murdered by it on normal difficulty, and I played it like I literally just straight like circle strafed around it on hard mode, you know. But I had it happen a couple times as well, playing that part. If you uncap the frame rate with Blood 2, that is actually what will cause Gabriella to like kill herself in the cutscene. It's like the wall blowing up or whatever for her to come through is just in some way dependent on the frame rate. And most stuff in video games is frame rate dependent. They try different ways of doing stuff, but the majority of the time, Fear is a great example of that. There's this one part, I just got past the part of like the water treatment or whatever the fuck it is that is actually also there in the demo, where like if you shoot the guy, he falls over the railing and, down the bottomless fucking pit of like just pipes for no reason, right? Like, I love that when they build shit like that in video games. I just imagine them putting it there and it's like, wait, hold on. So we're doing a bottomless pit with pipes to nowhere that aren't conceivably doing anything. They don't go anywhere. It's like, why are we doing this? And then the other guy is like, so the protagonist looks cooler when he kills us. And, and it's like, oh, right, I forgot about that. But yeah, like on modern systems, even right now, I have it at least, I think, capped to 60 FPS. The dude just goes flying. Like sometimes he flies so far he like misses the chasm, right? I don't ever remember that happening in the past. But I mean, in the past, in 2005, playing the demo, and then the final game, I was happy to get 20 frames per second. I mean, just the fact that a game could even look like that was kind of nuts. Um, but part of the physics kind of going haywire is the lack of a frame rate cap. And even though everyone loves their 120, 240 hertz monitors or whatever, the reality is most games are going to start bugging out at 60 FPS or even 30 FPS. So, like, for example, in Fear, when you kill Paxton Fettel, spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't played a 21-year-old game yet, but if you shoot him in the head, a lot of times he'll go flying up in the fucking air in that part. That never happened in the past. But again, in the past, if I got 20 frames per second, I was happy, right? 30 would have been amazing. But a lot of that stuff is heavily frame rate dependent. So that affects some of the shit with Blood too. I confirm that myself. Gabriella doesn't blow herself up if you cap the frame rate. Something else that just annoys me is when motherfuckers try to force widescreen on these old games, right? So I've seen so many Doom 3 reviews recently where the fucking HUD is stretched because they're just dead set on playing it at a modern resolution. And they're probably so fucktarded they play it in full screen, right? I don't know why anybody ever, like, I've had so many problems with games where the game locking up fucked me into having to restart, and like 100% of that goes away if you just put it to windowed mode. I don't ever see a valid reason to put a fucking game in full screen. But someone else, actually, one of the videos I saw, they commented this as well, is that a lot of the issues with Blood 2 boils down to the fact that it relies on DirectX features that haven't been supported in Windows even since Windows XP, right? Like, even Windows XP breaks a lot of that stuff. Because lithtech was originally it was made for Microsoft, but lithtech bought it back from them. But it relies pretty heavily on specific DirectX 7, I think it is, features that don't exist anymore. So if the game is broken, a lot of it is really just not the game's fault. Anything else past that point is the fact that GT just wouldn't give them, the time necessary to actually finish the fucking game. Like, it's literally a half-finished game. At that point, I would say pretty much all criticisms don't matter. I would, if they got to finish the fucking game, all right, cool. But, there's so many reasons why Blood 2 is what it is. And either way, Doom 3 and all this other stuff, Blood 2 leads me directly into Fear, because what's silly about it is that Fear 2 in a lot of ways to me just seems like Blood 2 with, dynamic shadows, right? And in fact, I think even Civi kind of made that comment. It's like, yeah, you're just chasing this guy the whole game. And also there's the really long elevator ride for no reason, right? In a lot of ways, I mean, even the humor of it, when I play Blood 2, there's a lot of bits in that it's very clear that Blood 2 is like the soul of Condemned and Fear. So, for example, the underground tunnel bit, and there's this hole in the wall with just a slumped up mattress or whatever. That is absolutely it just feels like Fear. Even the melee, you can feel the beginnings of the Condemned combat system. Well, the same thing with Fear. Those one enemies, they got like urban camo and those weird red things on their back and a gas mask. That is like got to be the basis of both that one Fear replica, but then also those weird ninja guys with the things on their back, right? I mean, even one of the like wounded animations that replicas will do, like they'll do that in Fear. I don't know if it's the same, but it looks almost identical. Looks like the one that got used in the E3 demos, and they do it occasionally in the game if they get like, discombobulated by a fucking, grenade like blast, right? Like, the emanation of the wavefront that you can see in first person, not in slow-mo or whatever. But Blood 2 just makes me think of Condemned and Fear and vice versa. And I'm almost out of 15 minutes on this one, so I'm just going to end this one right